When my fiancé Shen Yuz came to call off the engagement, I was kneeling before my mom's memorial, burning joss paper in the fire basin. The dim yellow firelight reflected on my numb face. The air was filled with the smell of burning paper money, a scorched smell, and the cold fragrance of the newly lacquered coffin. My mom was lying in that cold coffin. For 3 days now, Shen Yuz's arrival like a gust mixed with ice shards, a cold wind that blew and made my whole body shiver. He was wearing a moonlight white brocade robe, the jade pendants at his waist tinkling. He was still that debonair young master famous in the capital. It is just that on his handsome face was now written impatience and heartlessness. Sunyan, your aunt is in mourning. I shouldn't have come at this time. But he paused for a moment, as if searching for the right words. In the end, he still chose the most direct and cutting words. Ruoro and I are deeply in love. Our wedding date has been set. This engagement is hereby called off. Ru, by Ruo, the daughter of the Vice Minister of Personnel. I've heard of her, the #1 beauty of the capital city. Her talent and family background are both top-notch. Mi fiancé, while my mother's body was barely cold in her grave, brought his and another woman's mutual affection to come and twist the knife. I didn't even have the strength to be angry. I just found it absurd and laughable. The flames in the brazier licked at the paper ingots, making a light crackling sound. I slowly raised my head. My gaze calmly swept past him, landing on the demure-looking maid behind him. That maid was holding a brocade box in her hands. Inside must be the compensation gift for breaking off the engagement. How thoughtful. Where is the marriage agreement? I asked, my voice hoarse as if it had been scraped by sandpaper. Shen Yuz was slightly taken aback, as if he hadn't expected me to be so calm. He pulled a marriage contract out of his sleeve and handed it over. The words on it were still from back then when my dad and his dad, in high spirits after drinking, had personally written them. Now, my dad and mom are both gone. This marriage contract has also become a piece of worthless paper. I didn't take it. I just pointed my finger at the brazier. Throw it in. Shen Yuz's brows knitted into a knot. It seemed he thought my actions were uncultured. But in the end, he did as he was told. His hand loosened. That marriage certificate, declaring us a match made in heaven, fluttered and drifted down into the fire. The tongues of fire suddenly shot up high, instantly devoured him. I watched him turn into ashes, then deftly from my waist untied a jade pendant with a dragon and phoenix pattern. This was the token we exchanged. Its texture was warm and smooth. I've worn it close to my skin for 10 years, but right now in my palm. It was as cold as a stone. I handed it to Shen Yuz, reached out to take it just as his fingertips touched the jade pendant. I flicked my wrist. The jade pendant fell straight to the ground with a crisp crack. The fine mutton fat white jade shattered into several pieces. Shen Yuz's face instantly turned ashen. His handsome face was twisted with anger. Sunyan, why do you have to be like this? Once it is shattered, it is clean. I looked at the fragments on the ground and said softly, as if talking to myself, 10 years of our bond is like this piece of jade. Once it is shattered, it can never be pieced back together. After saying that, I no longer looked at him, slowly got up, walked to under the offering table in front of the mourning hall, and fumbled around to pull out a dark rust-spotted knife. That is the utility knife my mother used to process spices. The blade still has the residue of some unknown dark-colored sap from plants. It looks a bit scary. Shen Yuz's expression changed. He subconsciously took half a step back and shouted sternly, Sunyan, what do you think you are doing? Don't do anything stupid. He thought I was either going to kill him or kill myself. I looked at his terrified eyes. The little bit of remaining sorrow in my heart suddenly dissipated. All that was left was boundless indifference and a hint of mockery holding the knife. I walked to the entrance of the memorial hall under a half-dead osmanthus tree. This was the tree my dad planted for my mom back then. Now its branches and leaves are withered, completely lifeless. Just like our Sioux family, I raised the knife towards a withered tree branch with a swift motion of my hand. The knife came down with a kacha sound. The tree branch broke with the sound. The cut was smooth and even carrying a strange, Fresh fragrance. I brought the broken branch to the tip of my nose and sniffed lightly. Then I turned and looked at the stunned Shen Yu's young master. Shen, I spoke calmly, using such a distant form of address for the first time. You see, this withered tree has a lingering fragrance, although my Su family's Ningxiang pavilion has fallen. But I, Su Nian, am not dead yet. From this day forward, the engagement between me and you, Shen Yuze, is void. All ties between us are cut. You walk your sunny, broad road, and I'll cross my single plank bridge. This blade is not for you, nor is it for myself. I raised the embroidery knife in my hand. The blade's edge glinted with a sinister, cold light under the bleak daylight. It is for the 100-year foundation of my Su family's Ningxiang pavilion, to forge a new path to survival. Shen Yu stared at me blankly, as if it is the first day he has known me. The terror in his eyes slowly faded. What replaced it was a kind of scrutiny mixed with contempt. Reopening a path to life, he scoffed. As if he'd heard the biggest joke in the world. Su Nian, wake up. Yu's face was pale. Your family's shop has long been squeezed by Wanfangzhai until it couldn't open its doors anymore. The supplying farmers have all cut off contact. The old master craftsmen have all left too. What are you going to use to start over? Just with this broken knife and a dead branch? This object, this is an heirloom from my family. It is called Hongxi Guanjing. I didn't argue with him. I just coolly uttered 3 words. Get the hell out. Your pride, Shen Yu's, obviously couldn't stand this attitude of mine, I said. Get the hell out. I made my tone heavier, my gaze as cold as ice. Not here. You'll dirty my mother's path of reincarnation. Shen Yu's face turned red and white by turns. In the end, he flicked his sleeves and left. Without even leaving a single polite word, that maidservant hurriedly picked up the brocade box on the floor, trotted after them. The morning hall inside and out was finally dead silent again. I walked back to the front of the brazier, slowly knelt down and tossed that broken osmanthus branch into the fire. A rich and peculiar aroma instantly billowed up, overpowering the scorched smell of the paper money, carrying a hint of fresh sweetness, a hint of bitterness, and a faint, almost imperceptible medicinal scent. This is what my mother taught me, a type of incense called withered tree rejuvenated. She said the more desperate the situation, the more it can bring out the most unforgettable fragrance. Mother, you see. Your daughter understands now. Starting today, Su Nian is dead. The one who lives on is the new master of Ningxiang Pavilion. Shen Yu's, Bai Ruoro, and that Wanfang studio that suppresses my family at every turn. We have plenty of time. After sending my mother off, the first thing I did was to take stock of the family's assets. Just as Shen Yu said, the situation was even worse than I had imagined. The shop has been closed for half a month. Only some old unwanted spices were left in the storeroom. What is more, there were only a few taels of silver in the accounts. I couldn't even afford next month's rent. Your Ningxiang Pavilion that was once all over the capital is now just an empty shell. I dismissed the last 2 helpers in the house, only keeping Zhang Ma, a loyal servant who had been with my mother since she was little. Zhang Ma cried until her old eyes grew dim. Miss, what are we going to do? Should we go and beg the Shen family, for the sake of our past relationship? You can't just stand by and watch us starve to death. Zhang Ma, cut her off. My tone was calm, yet firm. The Su family does not have a custom of begging from others. Starving to death is a small matter. Losing our integrity is a great one. I opened a camphorwood chest. My mom left behind inside. There were no gold, silver, or jewels. Only a thick, yellowed notebook. On the cover were 4 characters handwritten by my mom, records of condensed fragrance. This is the Su family's real heir number. Number inside were recorded hundreds of lost incense recipes as well as my mom's lifelong insights. On incense, making the last page was her, using elegant small regular script, who wrote for me a line of words. That which is fragrant through contemplation is the Tao. Follow it, and you are mortal, reverse it, and you are immortal. The time is not yet right, do not start rashly. I closed the notebook and closed my eyes. Mother, the time has come. What I need aren't ordinary spices, but several strange primers recorded in the condensed fragrance record. These things simply can't be bought on the market. Holding that rust-spotted knife, I walked into the long-abandoned herb garden in the backyard. This place was once my mother's treasure, but now it is overgrown with weeds. I pushed aside the weeds that were half a person tall, following the guidance of the condensed fragrance dew, and found a plant that looked like a dead vine. I carefully used the knife to cut off a section of its rhizome. The sap that flowed from the rhizome carried a pungent and acrid smell. The renowned strange flowers and exotic herbs of the courtyard. This thing is called the 9-turn-soul returning vine. It is the main ingredient for making a special incense, a floating life's dream. For the next 7 days, I locked myself in the incense, making room in the backyard. Auntie Zhang left meals at the door every day. I could often hear her worried sighs. I followed the intricate procedure from the notes, washed my hands, burned incense, calmed my mind, used that special knife to process the herbs, ground, distilled, and purified. There couldn't be the slightest mistake in any step, the 7th day. When the final ingredient dripped into the celadon jar, indescribable fragrance instantly. It permeated the entire room, that fragrance. At first smell was a crisp plum blossom scent in an instant. It turned into a rich, mellow sandalwood scent upon savoring it. There was surprisingly even a hint of the scent of grass after the rain. The fragrance was layered upon layer, endlessly changing, as if it could evoke from the depths of one's heart the most secret memories and emotions. I was extremely careful with the fragrant balm I had made, portioning it into 10 small white jade porcelain bottles. Each bottle was only about the size of a thumb. This is floating life dream. The cost is practically zero, but the painstaking effort is priceless. Now I need an opportunity to make floating life dream an overnight success. Soon, an opportunity came. 3 days later, it was the 70th birthday banquet of the old matriarch of the Angguo Ducal Manor. The Angguo Ducal Manor was a top-tier noble family in the capital city. This birthday banquet almost managed to invite all the prominent figures in the capital. Bai Rukuro would be going. Shen Yuz would naturally accompany her as well. And as for me, an orphan girl from a family that had fallen on hard times, I didn't even have the right to step through the main gate of Duke Angguo's mansion. But I had my ways. I found someone, Qin Waner. She was the headliner of the Jiaofangxi. She had once received guidance from my mother. I improved the incense she uses when she goes on stage, so she has always been grateful to my family. But her social standing is low. Usually, we don't have any contact. I waited for her at the back door of the Jiaofang. Seeing me, Qin Waner was very surprised and quickly invited me into her small courtyard. Miss Su, how come you are here? So pampered. I am not here to waste words. Directly opened a porcelain bottle and handed it to her. Qin Waner is someone who knows her stuff. Just took one sniff and her expression changed. Her alluring peach blossom eyes were staring wide and round, filled with disbelief. What is this scent? I have never smelled such a unique fragrance. This fragrance is named Floating Life Dream. Still ringing, I said lightly. I want to ask Miss Qin for a favor. I laid out my whole plan after Qin Waner listened. Was silent for a moment, then gave a charming smile. If Miss Su trusts me, Waner will, of course, be of service. Besides, I am also very curious to see what kind of stir Floating Life Dream can cause in this capital city on the day of the birthday banquet. At the Duke Angguo's manor as an active musician, Qin Waner was able to enter the main hall. She didn't do anything on purpose, just dabbed on her wrists and behind her ears the slightest trace of Fusheng Meng. At the banquet, distinguished guests filled every seat, a glamour of fragrant gowns and glistening hairpieces by Ruoro, as the most eye-catching noble lady of the night, wearing a long cloud brocade dress, gleaming with pearls and jewels. She was scented with expensive rosemary purchased from the western regions, freshly sweet and richly fragrant, drawing endless admiration from the ladies and young misses around her. Shen Yu stood by her side, a talented man and a beautiful woman, truly a perfect couple. He looked at Bai Ruoro. In his eyes was a tenderness and adoration I had never seen before. My heart doesn't hurt anymore. I am just a spectator. When Qin Waner walked gracefully onto the stage holding a pipa. No one noticed her, a musician girl. No matter how beautiful, she is just a plaything. But when her fingertips plucked the strings when the first note flowed out, a strange, dark fragrance also quietly spread out with it. That fragrance was not strong, but it was as if it had a life of its own, wisp by wisp. It drilled into everyone's breath at first. People just thought this fragrance was very special. But gradually their expressions started to change. An old general who fought on battlefields. Suddenly his eye rims reddened. He seemed to smell the fragrance of wheat from his hometown. One by one, the pampered and privileged noblewoman unconsciously stroked the hair at their temples. She seemed to recall her younger days. The jasmine branch her lover gave her, even seated high in the main seat. Duke Nguo, who was accustomed to rare and precious treasures. The old matriarch, too, showed a reminiscent expression. The entire banquet hall fell into a kind of strange silence. The music was still playing, but everyone's attention seemed to be drawn away by that fragrance. Fell into their respective dreams of memories. The rosemary on Bairuoro was overbearing, yet was made by this seemingly subtle scent to appear unbearably tacky. The smile on her face froze a little at a loss. Shen Yu's also smelled it. He suddenly turned his head, searching in the crowd for the source of the fragrance. His expression was one of shock and bewilderment I had never seen before. What did he smell? Was it that year of apricot blossoms in a light rain, the scent from when we first met? The song ended. Qin Waner bowed gracefully. The entire audience was still silent. After a long while, it was the old matriarch who first came back to her senses. She looked at Qin Waner, her voice carrying a slight tremble. You, what is that fragrance you are wearing? Qin Waner answered, neither servile nor overbearing, replying to the old matriarch. This fragrance is named Floating Life Dream. This is a new product from Ningxiang Pavilion. Ningxiang Pavilion. The moment this name was mentioned, a subtle stir went through the crowd. Hasn't that place already shut down? Bairuoro's face turned deathly pale. Shen Yuzi, on the other hand, was staring fixedly at Qin Waner, as if trying to see my shadow in her. The old matriarch stood up excitedly. Hurry, and go get the shopkeeper of the condensed fragrance pavilion for me, no matter how much money it costs. This fleeting life's dream. This old lady, will take it all. Qin Waner smiled faintly, replying to the old matriarch. Shopkeeper Su of the condensed fragrance pavilion said fleeting life's dream is only a gift for the fated ones. Not for sale. Tode, this incense is a birthday gift for you, old madam. As for this fated connection, he paused for a moment. His gaze faintly swept over Bairuoro and Shen Yu's. His voice was clear and bright. Shopkeeper Su also said, this incense can mirror a person's heart. Those with a sincere heart will smell beautiful times and lovely scenery. Those with a guilty conscience will smell a plaguing nightmare. Jun took it. The words had just been spoken, when a scream of "ah" was heard. The color drained from Bairuoro's face. She backed away repeatedly, as if seeing something extremely terrifying. Don't come over. Don't come over, she pointed ahead. Trembling all over, Shen Yu's hurriedly supported her. Ruoro. What is wrong with you? Snake, there is a snake. Bairuoro spoke incoherently. Her face was drained of all color. The crowd was in an uproar in this magnificent banquet hall. Where would a snake come from? Everyone's gazes turned intrigued. Those with a guilty conscience will be plagued by nightmares. What kind of guilty deed did Vice Minister Bai's daughter commit to make her see hallucinations in public? Shen Yu's expression was extremely ugly. He was comforting the frightened Bairuoro on one hand, while searching the crowd with his sharp gaze on the other. He was looking for me. Too bad I wasn't there at all. I am currently sitting in the deserted shop of Ningxiang Pavilion, slowly and leisurely facing the candlelight, wiping that rusty blade. Mama Zhang ran in from outside, her face flushed red with excitement. Miss, we succeeded. The Angguo Duke's residence sent someone over to pass on a message. They said the old matriarch invites you to her residence tomorrow for a chat. There are also a lot of people asking about us. When is the shop going to open? Waner gave a slight smile. I nodded my head, as expected. The scent of Floating Life Dream can amplify a person's emotions and subconscious. If your heart is clear, what you smell will naturally be fond memories. If your heart harbors ghosts, it will draw out your deepest fears. Bairuoro. This is just the beginning. The next day I changed into a set of plain white clothes without a trace of makeup. I headed to the Angguo Duke's residence alone. I didn't take a carriage but walked all the way. The news had already spread throughout the capital city. The 3 words Ningxiang Pavilion came back from the dead overnight. Along the way, many people pointed fingers at me. Some were curious, some were amazed, and some were disdainful. The words had just been spoken. I kept my eyes fixed forward. I held my back perfectly straight. The butler of the Angwo Duke's residence personally greeted me. At the entrance, his attitude respectful. Compared to yesterday, Chinwaner's treatment was worlds apart. With this sentence, was then directly led to the old matriarch's inner hall. The old matriarch dismissed her attendants, only leaving behind a trusted old matron. She held my hand and scrutinized me for a long time, sighed, and said, "Good child. Just like your mother, back when your mother was still around. She also once blended a piece of calming incense for me. That skill. No one in the capital could match it." I bow respectfully. Sunyan pays my respects to the Grand Matriarch. Enough with the formalities. The old matriarch had me sit down. She got straight to the point. "That fleeting life's dream of yours." Smelling it reminded this old woman of my daughter who died young. "You made this incense?" "Yes, before my mother passed away." She passed the condensed fragrance dew on to me. The old matriarch nodded. Her eyes showed deep admiration. "Excellent, excellent. The Su family has a worthy successor, girl. Is there anything you want? Just speak up. As long as this old lady can do it, I will definitely help you." This is extending an olive branch to me. The promise of the manor of Duke Angwo is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. I didn't immediately make any requests. I just took out a small brocade pouch and handed it over. "This is something I, based on your physical condition, old matriarch, have specially formulated as a calming incense. I ask for nothing else. I only wish for the Grand Matriarch's blessings, longevity, and good health." This old lady, took it, opened it, and gave it a sniff. A soothed expression appeared on my face. "Good child. That is very thoughtful of you. You can rest assured. From now on, in this capital city, if anyone dares to bully you, they're picking a fight with me and the Duke and Guo's estate." With those words from she, it was enough. As I was coming out of the Duke and Guo's estate, a magnificent carriage blocked my path. The carriage curtain was lifted, revealing Shen Yu's complicated face. He has gotten a bit thinner. There were faint dark circles under his eyes, no longer as high-spirited and dashing as he used to be. "Sunyan. Let's talk. I have nothing to talk about with young Master Shen." I walked around the horse carriage and went straight ahead. Sunyan, he jumped off the horse carriage. He caught up in a few steps and grabbed my wrist. "What the hell do you want? Using this kind of dirty trick to make Ruru lose face in front of everyone makes you happy?" "Dirty tricks?" I stopped my steps and looked at him coldly. "Young Master Shen, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want. What your fiancé saw was her own inner demon. What does that have to do with my incense? Could it be that you really did something shameful?" Shen Yu's was rendered speechless by my retort. His face flushed red. "Let go." I shook off his hand, rubbing the wrist he had grabbed. "Red. Young Master Shen, you and I have long since cut all ties. From now on, when we meet, please conduct yourself with dignity. If you continue to pester me, don't blame me for disregarding our past." Our past. Shen Yu's looked as if he had heard the most ridiculous word. He gave a self-mocking laugh. "When you burned the marriage certificate and shattered the jade pendant, what old feelings were left between us? Since you already know, why bother coming back? I just want to ask you." He stared at me intently, his eyes full of bloodshot veins. "You tell me, is that incense really that magical? Did you learn all this a long time ago?" He was starting to have doubts, doubting that he had misjudged the person, doubting that what he gave up was a mountain of treasure. I looked at him and suddenly found him a bit pathetic. So what if I did? And so what if I didn't? I chuckled lightly. "Shen Yu's, what you missed out on wasn't whether or not I could make incense. It was me, Sunyan, as a person." After saying that, I turned and walked away, never looked back again behind. Shen Yu stood in place for a long, long time like a soul lost. Dejected statue. Ningxiang Pavilion has reopened for business. I didn't promote it heavily, just hung a sign at the entrance, selling only 3 bottles of Dream of a Floating Life daily. Highest bidder wins. The first day, 3 bottles of perfume were auctioned for the sky-high price of 1,000 taels of silver. The second day, 3,000 taels. The third day, the price was driven straight up to 5,000 taels. Floating life dream became the capital circle of the powerful and wealthy's most sought-after luxury item. Getting it was not just a symbol of taste, it is also a proof of status and wealth and I. Sunyan, from an orphan girl whose engagement was broken, in one leap became the sought-after shopkeeper Sue. My shop is bustling with people every day. But these people aren't here to buy ordinary spices. They only come for fleeting dream. I understood that relying on just one miraculous incense wouldn't get me far. I started following the formulas from the Ningxianglu to successively launch some incense products targeting different groups of people. For example, the mind-calming incense for scholars and literati, the beauty-enhancing balm for ladies in their chambers, and the dampness-dispelling and circulation-promoting sachet for military generals. Although these incense products weren't as stunning as Floating Dream, their effects were remarkable, and the prices were much more affordable. For a time, Ningxiang Pavilion truly came back to life. Busyness was booming. But all of this was like a series of thorns pricking the eyes of Wan Fangjai and Bai Ruoro. Wan Fangjai was a new shop opened by Bai Jiayin. It had always survived by imitating and suppressing Ningxiang Pavilion. Now, seeing me make a comeback, they naturally wouldn't let it go. Soon, they made their move. Rumors started spreading in the city that Ningxiang Pavilion's incense was poisonous, and that long-term use would make people lose their minds and have hallucinations. Some even claimed it with great certainty. They say that after the old matriarch of Duke Angguo's mansion used my calming incense, she fell so ill she couldn't get up. Rumors are fiercer than tigers. The business of Ningxiang Pavilion plummeted. The shop that was once bustling with customers has become deserted once more. Nanny Zhang is so anxious she is spinning in circles. Miss, what should I do about this? This is clearly someone causing trouble from behind the scenes. But I wasn't flustered at all. I had him post a notice. 3 days later at noon, I will prove my innocence in front of Ningxiang Ji. During these 3 days, Wan Fangjai's offensive became even more fierce. They bribed a few local thugs to make a scene at my shop's entrance every day, saying their family members went crazy after using my incense and demanding that I pay them money. I ignored them completely and just let them make a scene. By noon on the 3rd day, the entrance to Ningxiang Pavilion was already surrounded 3 layers deep inside and out. 3 layers were packed with people watching the commotion. The shopkeeper of Wan Fangjai, a fatty surnamed Qian, was leading those few family members of the victims and blocking my doorway. A smug look on his face. Bai Ruoro also came. She was sitting in an inconspicuous sedan chair, hidden behind the crowd, wanting to see me utterly ruined with his own eyes. I even felt Shen Yuzi's gaze. He was standing on the upper floor of a nearby tea house, looking downstairs with a complicated expression. Noon hour, 3rd quarter. I opened the shop door and walked out. Following behind me were the steward from Duke Angguo's manor and an old man with a sage-like air, dressed in the robes of an imperial physician. The crowd broke into an uproar. That is Imperial Physician Wang from the palace. Why is Imperial Physician Wang here? Shopkeeper Qian's expression changed. I walked to the front of the platform and said in a loud, clear voice, "Everyone, recently, a rumor has been spreading that the fragrance products from my Ningxiang Pavilion are poisonous. Today, in front of everyone, I will let the facts speak for themselves." I turned to those few troublemaking ruffians. "You say your family members went crazy from using my fragrance." The burly man in the lead shouted, sticking his neck out. "That is right. My mom used your scented balm. No, she is at home barking like a dog every day." "Fine," I nodded. "Imperial Physician Wang, please." Imperial Physician Wang stepped forward. He only glanced at that burly man's philtrum and wrist. Then he let out a sneer. "When did your mother go mad? This old man doesn't know. But this old man knows that your yang qi is weak and superficial. Dark circles under your eyes. It is obvious you were messing around at Chunfeng Lu all night yesterday. If you really have an old mother sick in bed, how could you still be in the mood for such things?" The burly man's face instantly went pale. Imperial physician Wang then walked towards another woman who was wailing hysterically. Pointing at her nose, he said, "And you, utter nonsense. You say your husband used my calming incense and became a fool. But this cheap smell of Wanfang joyful union powder on you, I can smell from 30 feet away. Your husband was probably drugged stupid by you, wasn't he?" A roar of laughter erupted from the crowd. That woman was both ashamed and scared and collapsed to the ground. Shopkeeper Qian's fat face turned the color of a pig's liver. He pointed at me and cursed. You are spouting vicious slander. You are in cahoots with the imperial physician. Whether we're in cahoots or not, we'll know with a single examination. I said coldly, the steward from Duke Angguo's mansion is here. He can bear witness. A few days ago the old matriarch did indeed catch a cold but has long since recovered. Imperial physician Wang was just on his way to give the old matriarch a well-being pulse check. I invited him over along the way to clear things up for everyone. The steward of the Duke of Angguo's residence stepped forward and said in a booming voice, "I can testify the old matriarch is in perfect health, and she was full of nothing but praise for our young Miss Sue's fragrances. Whoever dares to spread rumors again will be making an enemy of our Duke of Angguo's residence." With this, no one dared to question it anymore. Manager Qian's sweat was pouring down like rain. He knew the situation was hopeless. He turned around, wanting to slip away. "Manager Qian, don't be in such a hurry to leave." I called out to stop him. I took a piece of paper out of my sleeve. Holding it up high, on this are the signed statements from those thugs you bribed. And also, you sent people to my spice suppliers, the evidence of you threatening and luring them into not cooperating with me. I, Sunian, believe in doing business with harmony to generate wealth. But if others try to push me around, I am not some pushover that anyone can just mess with. Starting from today, my Ningxiang Pavilion and your Wanfang Zhai are sworn enemies. My voice echoed throughout the entire street. From the sedan chair behind the crowd came the crisp sound of a teacup shattering. Shen Yu's in the tea house was holding the hand holding the teacup trembled slightly. This round is my complete victory. After this battle, Ningxiang Pavilion's reputation didn't drop but rose instead, becoming synonymous with integrity and quality. As for Wanfang Zhai, its reputation was in tatters. Its doorstep was deserted. The Bai family must have been furious and frustrated. But the banner of the Duke Angguo's manor had already been raised. They didn't dare to make any more moves openly. I thought I could have some peace and quiet for a while. Didn't expect even bigger trouble, or rather, an even greater opportunity, had quietly arrived. That was a rainy night. A guard in black clothes was holding an umbrella and knocked on the closed shop door of Ningxiangji. He handed me a token. On it was carved a quaint character for mirror. "Su, my master requests your presence." I recognize this token. This belongs to the current emperor's most favored younger brother, Prince Jing Shaoxi's personal token. Prince Jing Shaoxi, a legendary figure. He became famous at a young age, with brilliant military achievements. But he was severely injured in a great battle 3 years ago. From then on, he rarely went out. His personality also became withdrawn and cold. No one dared to mess with him. What does he want with me? I had no reason to refuse. I followed the guard onto an extremely low-key carriage. The carriage drove all the way towards the west of the city. Finally, it stopped in front of a heavily guarded mansion. This is Prince Jing's mansion. I was in a simple and elegant study. I met this legendary prince. He was sitting in a large wheelchair. He was covered with a thick blanket. The rain pattered outside the window, making the room seem even more quiet. He had his back to me, as looking at a landscape painting, didn't turn his head. "You are Sunian." His voice was younger than I had imagined. Yet it carried a coldness and ofness that comes from long being in a high position. This commoner girl. Sunian greeted, "Your Highness." He slowly turned his wheelchair. A stunningly handsome, yet pale as paper face appeared before my eyes. His eyes were deep set. His nose bridge was high and straight, but those eyes were as black as a bottomless abyss, filled with wariness and scrutiny. "Raise your head," he commanded. I raised my head as told. Meeting his gaze, our eyes met. I saw in his eyes a barely perceptible hint of surprise. "You are the one who made Fusheng Meng?" He asked. "Yes, this incense can disturb one's heart and mind." He hit the nail on the head. "It can also soothe people's hearts," I replied calmly. "The incense itself is blameless. The sin lies in the human heart. Miss I was silent for a moment. You've got quite a sharp tongue, he said faintly. This king summoned you here not to debate with you. This king has been plagued by chronic headaches for years. The imperial physicians have tried everything, but can only provide slight relief. I've heard that your incense has a miraculous effect, so I want you to give it a try. So that is how it is. Rumor has it that after he was seriously injured, he was left with a stubborn head ailment. Does your highness trust this commoner girl? I can't trust you, he said bluntly. So while you are weaving the fragrance, Samanon will be monitoring you the entire time. If your incense is effective, this prince will reward you handsomely if you dare to try any funny business. He didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning in his eyes already said it all. This humble girl understands. Just like that, I began my days of making incense for Prince Jing. I was placed in a secluded courtyard in the prince's manor. All the necessary medicinal herbs and tools were delivered by a designated person. But my movements were also strictly restricted. The one monitoring me was the black-clothed guard who brought me here. His name was Jing Zhe. He was like a shadow, never leaving my side. I didn't mind. All my thoughts were focused on the concentrated fragrance dew. Prince Jing's headache stemmed from an old wound from the battlefield. It had damaged the meridians in his brain, and there was also stagnant qi. Ordinary calming incense was completely useless. Instead, it might even worsen his condition. I searched through the Ningxiang records, and finally found an ancient formula called 9 Heavens Dust. This remedy is extremely dangerous. It requires fighting poison with poison, using 49 types of supremely yang and potent medicinal herbs supplemented and harmonized by a supremely yin substance called Forgetting River Herb. The slightest mistake will turn it into a lethal poison. He spent a whole month's time to finally gather all the medicinal herbs. That Forgetting River Herb was the most difficult to obtain. Legend says it only grows in places of extreme yin on top of human bones on steep cliffs. The prince's manor mobilized all its forces and only managed to find a single plant in the royal secret vault. The process of making the incense was even more perilous. Several times, because of the conflicting medicinal properties, I almost got knocked out by the toxic fumes. It was all thanks to a few things my mother taught me. Only managed to pull through with the detoxification method Jing Zhe. From his initial suspicion, to his later shock, and then to his final admiration, the look in his eyes changed day by day. Finally, on the 49th day, the Jushin Chen was formed. That was a piece of black incense cake. It looked unremarkable. It didn't even have a hint of fragrance. I handed it to Jingzhe, and instructed this incense must not be lit directly. It needs to be dissolved in warm water. Use its steam for fumigation once a day for a quarter of an hour each time. No more. No less. Jingzhe took the incense to Shao Kahn's study. I waited anxiously in the courtyard. Success or failure hinged on this one move. I don't know how much time passed. Jingzhe came back, walking quickly with an irrepressible look of joy on her face. Miss Su, His Highness's head doesn't hurt anymore. This is the first time in 3 years that His Highness has slept soundly. I let out a long sigh of relief. My whole body felt like it had collapsed from exhaustion. I slumped down onto the stone bench that night. Xiao Ce summoned me. He was still sitting in the wheelchair, but his complexion was obviously much better, and in that pair of abyss-like eyes there was a hint of a living person's aura. What reward do you want? He asked. Don't want a reward. I only ask one thing of you. Your Highness, it is said this humble girl wishes to ask your Highness to intervene and thoroughly investigate the Bai family behind Wanfangjai. Not only do they maliciously suppress their competitors, they are also suspected of recklessly disregarding human lives. I have taken the evidence I collected about Wanfangjai using inferior and even poisonous materials to make incense, which caused some users' health to be damaged, and submitted it. Xiao Qi took the evidence. He quickly skimmed through it. A harsh glint flashed in his eyes. Permission. Granted, he only said those 2 words. It swept in with the force of a thunderbolt. The next day, the Jingzhao Fu shut down Wanfangjai. Vice Minister Bai was impeached. Although he barely held on to his official position through his network of connections, he was still greatly weakened, becoming a target for his political rivals. Bai Ruoro's situation took an even sharper downturn. First, he lost his composure at the birthday banquet. Then it was exposed that his family's business treated human lives as worthless. His reputation plummeted. The original marriage with the Shen family was also by the Shen family politely declined on the grounds of incompatible Bazi. The Shen family is sacrificing the chariot to save the general. When I heard this news, I was watering an orchid. There wasn't the slightest ripple. Instead, Shen Yuz came looking for me again. This time he was at the entrance of Ningxiang Pavilion, and stopped me in front of everyone. He looked extremely haggard. His eyes were full of red bloodshot veins, as if he hadn't slept all night. Sunyan, his voice was hoarse. Ruwuro. He is dying. Ever since the engagement was called off, he fell ill and has been bedridden ever since. He won't eat or drink. I know this is all because of you. I am begging you. Go and see him. Make things clear with him, okay? I look at him. I find it incredibly ironic, young master. Shen, have you forgotten who it was back then, who forced me to break off the engagement before my mother's memorial, and now you have the nerve to come and beg me go pity your new flame? I didn't. He retorts agitatedly. I just don't want to see her ruined like this, Sunyan. I am begging you for the sake of our past relationship. I sneer our relationship when you chose Bai Ruwuro. It was already fed to the dogs. Do you have to be so heartless? His eyes showed pain and pleading. Just then, a horse-drawn carriage stopped beside us. Jingja got down from the carriage and bowed respectfully to me. Miss Suhi's Highness invites you to his residence. He said he has just gotten a batch of fine Nanhai ambergris and invites you to appreciate it. His Highness? Which Highness? Shen Yuz was stunned. The crowd around also started whispering. Could it be His Highness, Prince Jing? Oh my God, shopkeeper Su is actually connected to Prince Jing's residence. I ignored Shen Yuz's shocked gaze and nodded at Jingzi. Thank you for your trouble. I turned and prepared to get into the carriage. Sunyan, Shen Yuz grabbed my arm. His strength was astonishing. You. And Prince Jing, what is your relationship? There was shock in his eyes, disbelief, and a hint of jealousy he himself hadn't even noticed. I frowned in disgust before I even had a chance to speak. A cold voice came from inside the carriage. Let her go. The carriage curtain was lifted by a hand with well-defined knuckles, revealing Shao Kahn's pale and handsome face. Although he was still sitting in a wheelchair, that imposing aura he had without being angry made the surrounding air seem to freeze. Shen Yuz was like he'd been struck by lightning, frozen on the spot. He subconsciously let go of his hand. Your Highness, Prince Jing. He stammered, his face deathly pale. Xiaoce's gaze fell coldly on her, like he was looking at a dead thing. My woman is also someone you can touch? His words were earth-shattering. Shen Yuz dropped to his knees with a thud. His whole body was shaking like a sieve. I was stunned too. When did I become his woman? I looked at Xiao Qi in astonishment, but he just winked at me, in those deep eyes. There unexpectedly flashed a trace of a mischievous smile. I instantly understood he was getting me out of a bind. Although the method was a bit shocking, Scram Xiaoci couldn't even be bothered to spare Shen Yuz. Another glance faintly spitting out a single word, Shen Yai. Ooze was as if granted a great amnesty, disappeared into the crowd, scrambling and tumbling. I got on the carriage curtain fell, cutting off all the clamor from outside. Inside the carriage, the elegant scent of ambergris lingered at the tip of my nose. I looked at the calm and unhurried Xiao Scent opposite me. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Thank you, Your Highness, for helping me out. I still chose to thank him in the end. No need. He looked at me, the corners of his lips curled up slightly. This king is just speaking the truth. He looked at my awkward expression, and seemed to be in a very good mood. He even let out a low chuckle. Don't worry. This king will not let you bear this title for nothing. He suddenly said with a serious expression, Sunyan, you are a smart woman. This king lacks a person like you by his side. Your Highness means to be this king's princess consort. His words were shocking. This king will give you the Prince Jing manor as your backing, and you will relieve this king of his troubles. This is a deal. Are you willing? I looked at him. His gaze was very serious. Not joking in the slightest. Marry someone whose power dominates the imperial court. A deeply calculating prince. This seems to be a path that could let me completely break free from my past, a shortcut to greater heights. But what I've wanted has never been to depend on anyone, Your Highness. I met his gaze, and slowly shook my head. What this humble girl wants is to rely on my own 2 hands to open my SU family's Ningxiang pavilion all across the country, not to become someone's Wang Fei and be trapped in a courtyard. I thought he would be angry. Would think I don't know what is good for me. I didn't expect that he would just give me a deep look and then smiled what a blooming all over the country. Genuine admiration showed in his eyes. Sunyan, you are more interesting than this prince. Imagined this deal, this king will put it another way, he said. You be this king's partner. This king will provide the money and handle the trouble, to help you get rich overnight. The silver you earn, you split half with this king. How about it? The word partner. Fresh and full of temptation, I looked at his outstretched hand, pondered for a moment, then firmly shook it. Deal. The cooperation with Prince Jing's mansion put the development of Ningxiang Pavilion on the fast track. Shaoqi gave me the greatest freedom and support. He not only invested a huge amount of funds but also used the prince's mansion's network of connections to open up trade routes for me everywhere and provided the sources for the rarest spices. I, in turn, poured all my energy into the research, development, and business of fragrance products. I was no longer confined to the capital city, but rather in places like Jiangnan and Shuzhong for spices. New incense-making workshops were opened at the places of origin. A batch of fiercely loyal incense masters was trained. The name of Ningxiangji quickly spread throughout the whole country. And Shao Kan and I, in this peculiar kind of cooperative relationship, gradually became familiar with each other. He was no longer that aloof, cold-faced prince. I was no longer that timid and cautious common girl either. We would appreciate the newly blended incenses together. He can always hit the nail on the head and point out its subtleties and shortcomings. We would also play chess under the moonlight. His playstyle is bold and sweeping, extremely aggressive. Whereas I am good at defensive counterattacks. I can often, at a moment he doesn't expect, deal him a fatal blow from someplace. I discovered he wasn't as cold and ruthless as the rumors said. His heart held a loneliness that no one could understand. And my appearance was like a ray of light lighting up his dark world. His legs also, under my meticulous care, gradually regained feeling. Imperial physician Wang said, given time, he might have a chance to get back on his feet. He and Shen Yu's completely disappeared from my world. I heard that after the Bai family fell, the Shen family was also implicated. Their family fell into decline. Shen Yu's drowned his sorrows in wine all day, unable to recover from the setback. One time, I happened to run into him on the street. He was wearing a set of old clothes, washed until they were faded, unshaven, and scruffy. His face was haggard and gaunt because he owed money for wine. He was being pushed and shoved out by the tavern's waiter. He saw me. He saw the magnificent canopied carriage behind me. He saw the extraordinary Xiaoce by my side first. There was shock in his eyes then, endless regret and pain. He wanted to come forward, but was rudely blocked by Jingzhe. I didn't spare him a glance and walked straight past him. It is not that I am heartless, but it is because I know that we are already separated by thousands of rivers and mountains. Before I left, Shaoqi asked me, "Do you regret it?" I knew what he was asking. I shook my head. No regrets. I only thank him for letting me see clearly the coldness of people's hearts, and for letting me encounter better scenery. I looked at him. The moonlight sprinkled on his handsome side profile, softening his sharp contours. "Wang Ye, you are the best scenery I have ever encountered," I said softly. His body stiffened. He slowly turned his head. In those deep eyes of his surged a raging storm that I couldn't understand. He didn't speak, just stretched out his hands and pulled me tightly into his embrace. His embrace was warm and strong, carrying a faint, cold fragrance, deep and lingering for 9 days. In that moment, I knew I had fallen. 3 years later, Ningxiang Pavilion has already become the #1 fragrance brand in the Great Liang Nation. Branch stores are all over the country. It is even sold overseas through maritime trade routes. And as for me, Shaoxi was also, through my treatment and relentless rehabilitation, miraculously stood up again. He returned to the imperial court with his extraordinary wisdom and iron-fisted methods, purged the treacherous officials in the court, became the emperor's most relied upon right-hand man. Everything was moving in the best direction just when the emperor decreed that I and Shaoxi were to be married. Urgent report from the border. The great army of the northern DI is massing at the border. Xiao volunteered for command, once again taking command to go to war before he left. He pulled me into his arms and said in my ear, "Nian, wait for me to come back. The day I return will be my 10-li long red wedding procession. The time I take you as my wife, I prepared the best army campaign and sachet for him. It can repel insects, ward off miasma, refresh the spirit, and heal wounds." I stood on the city tower, watching his great army go off into the distance until they disappeared on the horizon. And so the wait was half a year. During that half year, the war reports were sometimes good and sometimes bad. My heart also went up and down along with them. Finally, news of a great victory came. Xiaoqi won against overwhelming odds, crushing the BD's 300,000-strong army. The BD king signed the surrender document, promising not to invade again within 10 years. The capital city was a scene of jubilation. I finally waited for my general, my love. He is no longer the man he was on the day he returned to the capital. When the streets emptied out for him, he was on horseback. Clad in armor, he has shed his sickly pallor and gained some of the battlefield's fortitude, looking even more heroic and dashing. His gaze passed through the bustling crowd and precisely landed on the tea house on me. Standing by the window, he gave me a brilliant smile. That smile was even more dazzling than the fireworks filling the sky. 1 month later, our wedding date was set. On the eve of the wedding, I returned to the Su family's old residence. I knelt before my parents' memorial tablets and lit for them an incense stick that I had personally blended. The reunion incense, the fragrance of the incense wafted up as if Mom and Dad were smiling and looking at me. "Mom. Dad, your daughter is getting married," I said softly. "Don't you worry, your daughter is doing very well, very happy." The sound of light footsteps came from behind me. I turned around and saw Xiao Cao. He had changed out of his brocade robes and fine clothes, wearing the same plain-colored long gown as me. Quietly standing there, he walked over, took the 3 incense sticks from my hand, respectfully facing me, bowed 3 times to the spirit tablets of my father and father-in-law. "Mother-in-law, please rest assured and entrust Nian Nian to me." His voice was solemn. "I, Xiao Kai, hereby swear an oath. I will not fail her in this life." I looked at his side profile. My eyes grew hot. I fished something out from under the offering table. It was that rusty knife. I handed it to Xiaoxi. He was stunned for a moment. He took it. "What is this?" "It is what unlocked my innermost feelings," I said with a smile. "Now I am handing it over to you. From now on, my happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy, my entire life is now connected to you." He was holding that knife and also held my hand. His palm was warm and dry. "All right." He looked into my eyes and said, "Word by word, I was too late to be part of your past, but I will be with you for all of your future." Outside the window, the sunlight is just right. The osmanthus tree has long been lush with branches, and leaves. The whole tree is golden yellow, its fragrance drifts for 10 li. I know this is my withered wood meeting spring, a dream of a fleeting life, and the dream will finally come true.